And God said, Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth.
So God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him. Male and female created he them.
And God said, Let us make man in our image. Where does this plural come from? Why does God say, Let us? I don't believe, as many rabbinical scholars do, that it is a plural of majesty or a kind of royal we. There's just no attestation to this plural majesty in this case. Trinitarian Christians maintain that Genesis 1:26 and Genesis 11:7 are proof texts of an alleged triunity God, but this claim is erroneous. The inference that let us make man in our image in Genesis 1:26 refers to the plurality of God is refuted by the subsequent verse, which relates the creation of man to a singular God. And God created man in his image. In this verse, the Hebrew verb created appears in the singular form. If we take a look at this verse in the original Hebrew language that it was written in, we discover that the word that was translated as capital G-O-D, God, in the English language was the word Elohim.
ויאמר אלוהים, נעשה אדם בצלמנו כדמותנו, וירדו בדגת הים ובעוף השמיים, ובבהמה ובכל הארץ, ובכל הרמס הרומס על הארץ. ויברא אלוהים את האדם בצלמו, בצלם אלוהים ברא אותו, זכר ונקבה ברא אותם.
Elohim is a Hebrew word that means gods or godhood. The grammar and etymology of the word Elohim in biblical Hebrew is a grammatically plural noun, basically meaning gods or deities. The I am ending in Hebrew usually shouts out a bunch of dudes, masculine plural vibes. But when we're talking about the Jewish God, capital G, Elohim is like, hold up, I'm going solo. Grammatically singular, running the show with singular verbs and adjectives. Now, in modern Hebrew, folks often keep it simple and refer to Elohim in the singular, even though that I am ending usually screams plural party in Hebrew. Elohim is linked to its cousin, Eloah, which is like the expanded version of the Northwest Semitic noun Il. The cool thing is, Eloah and El can be used interchangeably with Elohim. It's like a family reunion of words. Elohim adds an extra h as the third radical to the biconsonantal root. That's the secret sauce of its expansion. If you're into word origins, the etymology talks mostly about this expansion jazz. And guess what? Elohim isn't shy about making appearances outside Hebrew. You can spot an exact match in Ugaritic as I'm hanging out with El, the big shot creator god in the Canaanite pantheon. In biblical Aramaic, it's Allah, and later in Syriac, they call it Allah, God, capital G. And in Arabic, it goes by Ilah, meaning small g, God, or deity. And you might recognize it as Allah, the single, capital G-O-D, most frequently associated with Islam. Now brace yourself for the Elohim parade in the Hebrew Bible, over 2,500 times, showing off different meanings. It goes from the general small g, gods, vibe in Exodus 12:12, talking about the gods of Egypt, to getting specific, like when it refers to Yahweh as the Elohim of Israel, Oh, and it doesn't stop there. Elohim also hangs out with seraphim, supernatural beings, and even the spirits of the dead. In 1 Samuel chapter 28, verse 13, things get a bit mystical. The witch of Endor spills the beans to Saul about seeing Elohim ascending from the earth when she summoned the spirit of prophet Samuel. What's interesting is that Elohim is flexing its plural muscles with a plural verb. In this context, Elohim could mean both spirits and deities, according to some traditional Jewish sources. Any disembodied creature, including human souls as the image of God, could be called Elohim. Now, let's shift to Genesis 20, verse 13, where Abraham, in front of the polytheistic king Abimelech, says that Elohim caused him to wander. Here, Elohim is accompanied by a plural verb. The Greek Septuagint has a singular verb, but most English versions roll with God, capital G, caused. The Jerusalem Talmud debates the holiness of the name used, and the disagreement continues in Tractate Sephirim. Some suggest it means gods, small g, indicating Abraham's distaste for idolatry, while others link it to wicked rulers. Lastly, in Genesis chapter 35, verse 7, Jacob is building altars and having a chat with Elohim. The catch? The verb, revealed himself, is plural, and it's not the only time the Bible throws in plural verbs with Elohim. Jewish sources like Targum Jonathan and Ibn Ezra offer the idea that Elohim here might mean angels. They point to Jacob's vision of angels going up and down the ladder. So when Elohim refers to the God of Israel, it usually takes on a singular vibe, often translated as capital G-O-D. For instance, in Genesis 1:26, it's like, Elohim said, "Let us make man in our image." The plural pronouns might seem like a squad discussion, but in traditional Jewish understanding, it's more like God having a chat with the angels before creating Adam. Jump to Genesis 1:27, and you'll notice that the singular verb, he created, emphasizing that God did the whole creation gig solo. Now here's the twist. Sometimes this word is hanging out in the plural, which might raise some eyebrows and make you think, wait, does that mean polytheism? Modern translations like the NASB, New American Standard Bible, sometimes switch things up to keep it less puzzling. They might throw in rulers instead of a second God in Psalm 82:1. Others, staying true to the original Hebrew, roll with gods, small g, or divine beings. But hold on, this doesn't mean the Bible is pushing the ideal of multiple gods. See, Elohim isn't a one-size-fits-all deal. The Old Testament uses it to talk about different entities. First up, you've got Yahweh, the big boss of Israel's God Squad, mentioned over a whopping 1,000 times. Then there's Yahweh's heavenly council members, the gods of other nations, demons, check out Deuteronomy chapter 32 verse 17, spirits of the deceased, see 1 Samuel chapter 28 verse 13, and even angels, read up on Genesis chapter 35 and verse 7. But here's the kicker. Just because they all get called Elohim doesn't mean they're on the same level. Yahweh, the God of Israel, stands tall above the rest. The biblical writers want to make that crystal clear. They're not saying Yahweh is just like demons or angels. Yahweh is in a league of his own, even though they're all labeled Elohim. Now, the key to understanding this Elohim party is realizing they all share one thing. They call the non-human realm home. It's like a spiritual hangout spot, not your everyday human turf. Elohim doesn't mean a specific set of qualities. It's more like an address, telling you where these entities belong. Yahweh, the council gods, small g, angels, demons, and the ghostly crew all kick it in the spiritual or unseen world. Yeah, they might pop into the human scene from time to time, and a few lucky folks might get a backstage pass to the non-human realm. Shout out to the prophets and Enoch. But remember, they've got their own separate hangouts. And just to keep things straight, in both the spiritual and human worlds, these entities are sorted out by rank and power. Yahweh is top tier. Being called Elohim doesn't automatically put you in his league. So, bottom line, Orthodox Israelites believed Yahweh was the real MVP, standing out in the divine crowd. The ideal that Yahweh is one of a kind, totally unmatched, isn't canceled out by the whole Elohim crew showing up in the Old Testament. But hey, there are always exceptions to the rule. Some verses, like Genesis chapter 20 verse 13 and Genesis chapter 35 verse 7, throw in a plural twist when talking about Elohim. Notable exceptions include references to the living God, Deuteronomy chapter 5 verse 26, using the plural adjective Elohim Hayim, but still sticking to singular verbs. Now, when you peek into the Septuagint and the New Testament, they keep it simple, translating Elohim as the singular Ho Theos. Modern's translation follows suit, using God, capital G, in the singular form. And just a heads up, the Samaritan Torah decided to edit out some of these exceptions. Elohim, keeping us on our toes. So, in a few cases in the Greek Septuagint, when Hebrew Elohim decided to roll with the plural verb or was playing with the implied plural card, the translators were like, let's go with angels or for the judgment of God. This choice made its way to the Latin Vulgate and eventually into the English King James Version, where Elohim got translated as angels or judges. This led James Strong, the concordance guru, to list both angels and judges as potential meanings for Elohim with the plural verb, a trend that many reference works followed throughout the 17th until the 20th century. Even heavyweights like Gesenius' Hebrew Lexicon and the Brown Diver Briggs Lexicon threw in angels and judges as alternative options for Elohim hanging out with plural verbs and adjectives. When we flip to the Greek New Testament, it throws us a curveball. In Hebrews chapter 2, verses 6 through 8, quoting Psalms 8, 4 through 6, it swaps in angelios, angels, in verse 7. This echoes the Greek Septuagint's version of Psalm 8:5 or 8:6, depending on the translation, where it also goes with angelios. But here's the kicker. In the KJV, Elohim only gets the angels treatment in Psalm 8:5. Now, if you dive into the KJV, you'll find Elohim wearing different hats. Judges in some spots, like Exodus 21 and 6, Exodus 22 and 8, Exodus 22 and 9, and 1 Samuel 2:25. But wait, it switches to God's small g in Exodus 22:28, Psalm 82:1, Psalm 82:6, Psalm 95:3, Psalm 96:4, Psalm 97:9, and Psalm 138:1. Oh, and here's a cool tidbit. Angels often carry the related noun El in their names, like Michael and Gabriel, according to the Hebrew Bible and other texts. Quite the linguistic journey, right?